The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was huge. Thousands of different alien species sat in their seats, talking quietly about trade deals and border disputes. The air was filled with the soft hum of translation devices working in hundreds of languages. Everything was normal until Ambassador Kextar stood up. Kextar was tall, even for his species. His red skin gleamed under the lights and his forearms moved as he spoke. He belonged to the Hegemony Coalition, a group of 12 war-loving alien races who thought they were the strongest in the galaxy. "Fellow council members," Kextar said, his voice booming across the hall, "I have important news to share with you all." The talking stopped. All eyes turned to the red-skinned alien. Some council members leaned forward in their seats. Others looked worried. "The Hegemony Coalition has made a decision," Kextar continued. "We are going to take control of the human territories. Their planets have many resources that we need. The humans are weak and scattered across too many worlds. It will be easy." The hall went completely silent. Not one being made a sound. Even the translation devices seemed to pause. The silence lasted for what felt like forever. Then Elder Zephyrian stood up slowly. She was ancient, even by the standards of her long-lived species. Her blue skin was covered in wrinkles, and her 6 eyes had seen more wars than anyone could count. When she spoke, her voice shook with shock. "You're attacking humans?" she said, her words barely above a whisper. "Have you completely lost your minds?" Kextar laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "Elder Zephyrian, I expected better from someone so old. You're afraid of stories and legends? Humans are just another young species. They've only been in space for a few hundred years. We have been conquering worlds for thousands." Other council members started to whisper among themselves. Some looked scared. Others looked like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. Ambassador Thrix of the Crystal Collective stood up. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors when he was upset. Right now he was flashing red and orange very quickly. "Kextar, you don't understand what you're saying," Thrix said. "My people have fought alongside humans before. They are not like other species. They don't fight the way you expect them to." "Your people are weak," Kextar replied, "just like the humans. When we are done with them, maybe we'll take your worlds too." The crystal being's colors turned deep purple with anger. But before he could speak, another voice cut through the air. "Ambassador Kextar," said General Vorthak of the Military Union, "as someone who has actually studied human conflicts, I must warn you. This is a terrible mistake." Kextar's forearms waved dismissively. "General, your reputation for being careful is well known. But sometimes action is better than endless worry. The humans have resources we need. They live on worlds that should belong to stronger species. It's time to take what should be ours." "But have you read the reports?" asked Dr. Zelana from the Science Consortium. Her tentacles writhed nervously as she spoke. "The humans don't fight like normal beings. They do things that make no sense. They turn everyday objects into weapons. They fight even when they should surrender." "Stories," Kextar said with another ugly laugh. "Propaganda to make weak species feel better about themselves. The truth is simple. Humans are young, they are few, and they are spread thin across too many worlds. My coalition has 12 species with millions of warships. The humans have maybe a few thousand ships total. The math is simple." Elder Zephyrian tried again. "Kextar, please listen to those of us who have lived longer than you. There are good reasons why no major power has ever tried to conquer human space. The humans have something that makes them dangerous in ways you cannot imagine." "And what is that, Elder?" Kextar asked, his voice full of mockery. "Creativity," said a new voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned to look. It was Ambassador Quinn of the Trade Federation, a species known for being very careful with money and risk. "Humans are creative in ways that are terrifying. They look at any situation and find solutions that no one else would ever think of." Kextar's laugh was even louder this time. "Creativity? You're all afraid of creativity? We have weapons that can destroy planets. We have ships that can travel faster than light. We have armies of soldiers who have conquered hundreds of worlds. What can human creativity do against that?" The hall erupted in worried chatter. Different species were talking to each other in urgent whispers. Some were already reaching for their communication devices to contact their home worlds. Ambassador Kextar raised his forearms for silence. "Enough of this fear," he announced. "The Hegemony Coalition has made its decision. Our fleets are already moving toward human space. The first attack will begin in 7 standard days. Any species that tries to help the humans will be considered our enemy." "This is madness," whispered Someone in the crowd. "You'll regret this," said another voice, but Kexter wasn't listening anymore. He was looking at a data pad that one of his assistants had given him. "I have just received word that our advanced scouts have reached the outer human colonies. They report that the humans seem completely unaware of what's coming. They're not even preparing for war. This will be easier than we thought." Elder Zephyrian stood up again, her old body shaking with emotion. "Kextar, I am going to say this one more time. Please reconsider. Please study the human conflicts of the past. Please understand what you are about to face. The humans are not like other species. When they fight, they don't just use weapons. They use everything. They turn their entire society into a weapon." "Old fear," Kextar replied, "from old beings who have forgotten what it means to be strong." With that, he turned and walked out of the hall, followed by the other Hegemony representatives. The door closed behind them with a loud clang. The remaining council members sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Then the hall exploded into activity. Beings were shouting into communication devices, trying to contact their governments. Some were pulling up old files on their data pads. Others were already heading for the exits. Elder Zephyrian remained in her seat, staring at the door where Kextar had left. One of the younger council members approached her. "Elder, what do you think will happen?" the young being asked. Zephyrian looked up with her 6 ancient eyes. "I think," she said quietly, "that the hegemony is about to learn why the rest of us have been so careful never to make humans truly angry." Across the galaxy, the news was already spreading. The Hegemony coalition was going to attack human space. Some species immediately began moving their ships and colonies as far away from human territory as possible. Others started placing bets on how long the hegemony would last. But in the deepest, most secure archives of the Galactic Council, automated systems were already pulling up classified files. Files about human conflicts that most beings had never seen. Files that contained words like impossible, unprecedented, and how did they even do that? The galaxy was about to be reminded why humans were different, and why that difference made them the most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. The Galactic Council's central archives had never been so busy. After Kextar left the Great Hall, hundreds of species rushed to access classified files about humans. The computers worked overtime as beings searched for any information about human conflicts. Elder Zephyrian was one of the first to reach the archive terminals. Her 6 old eyes scanned through data that made her feel sick to her stomach. She remembered these events, but seeing them all listed together was overwhelming. "Computer, show me the file on the siege of Kepler 442, she said. The screen lit up with a warning message. "Restricted content, traumatic material, viewer discretion advised." Zephyrian ignored the warning and opened the file. Video footage began to play, showing a human mining colony under attack. The crystalline hive had sent a massive invasion force to take the planet's rare metals. They had every advantage. More ships, more soldiers, better weapons. The human defenders had only 300 Marines and some mining equipment. The battle should have lasted a few hours. Instead, it went on for 6 months. The footage showed human soldiers using mining lasers as weapons. They turned industrial robots into fighting machines. When they ran out of normal ammunition, they started loading the guns with metal scraps from the mining operation. When the aliens broke through their walls, the humans kept fighting in the tunnels using nothing but hand tools and explosive mining charges. "How did they hold out so long?" asked Ambassador Thrix, who had joined Zephyrian at the terminal. His crystal body was flashing nervous yellow colors. "Watch this part," Zephyrian said, pointing at the screen. The video showed human engineers working frantically in a damaged workshop. They were taking apart their own life support systems and combining them with mining equipment. Within hours, they had created weapons that shot clouds of poisonous gas. They had turned their air recyclers into chemical weapon factories. "That's not possible," Thrix whispered. "Life support systems can't be weaponized. They're completely different technology." "That's what everyone thought," Zephyrian replied. "But humans don't think about what's supposed to be possible. They think about what they need to do and find a way to do it." The video continued. It showed the final week of the siege. The humans had lost most of their equipment and were down to 50 soldiers. But instead of surrendering, they had somehow convinced the planet's wildlife to help them fight. Giant rock-eating worms were attacking the alien landing sites. Flying creatures were dropping explosive packages on enemy camps. They made friends with wild animals in the middle of a war? Thrix asked him. The humans discovered that the rock worms were intelligent. They taught them to recognize the difference between human technology and alien technology. The worms started eating the alien equipment because humans convinced them it tasted better. Across the archive room, other species were looking at their own files. The Altarian delegate was watching footage from the Battle of the Void Rift. In that conflict, human ships had somehow managed to weaponize their own life support systems. When their weapons were destroyed, they started shooting clouds of oxygen at enemy ships and then igniting them with electrical sparks. The Ethereal Collective's representative was studying energy readings that still made no sense to their scientists. During a space battle, human engineers had overloaded their ship's power systems in a way that should have killed everyone on board. Instead, they had created a new type of energy weapon that could punch holes through the strongest alien armor. "This is impossible," the Ethereal muttered. "These energy readings violate several laws of physics." "That's what we thought too," said General Vorthak, looking over the being's shoulder. "But human engineers don't seem to care about the laws of physics. They treat them more like suggestions." The most disturbing file was being viewed by the Synthetic Accord. Their representative, an advanced robot named Unit 7742, was watching recordings from what the files called the diplomatic incident at Tau Ceti. The footage showed a trade negotiation between humans and the Venom Lords, a species that used biological toxins as weapons. The Venom Lords had brought a creature called a Death Taster to the meeting. It was a small animal that was so poisonous that just touching it could kill most beings. The Venom Lord ambassador had placed the creature on the negotiation table as a threat. "This is what happens to species that don't agree to our terms," he had said. The human negotiator, a middle-aged woman named Sarah Chen, had looked at the creature for a moment. Then, without any expression on her face, she had picked it up and eaten it alive. The room had gone completely silent. The Venom Lords had stared in shock as the human calmly chewed and swallowed the most poisonous creature in their arsenal. "Your poison tastes like chicken," Chen had said. "Now let's discuss fair trade prices." The Venom Lords had agreed to every human demand without another word. Unit 7742's mechanical brain tried to process what it had seen. "According to my calculations, consuming that creature should have killed her within 30 seconds. "It did kill her," said Dr. Zalana, reading from another file. "She died 4 times during that meeting." But humans had developed medical nanobots that could restart her heart and neutralize toxins. She kept coming back to life and continuing the negotiation like nothing had happened. "She died and came back to life multiple times during a business meeting?" Unit 7742 asked. "The humans called it aggressive negotiating tactics," Dr. Zalana replied. As more files were opened, the pattern became clear. Humans didn't just fight wars. They reimagined what war could be. They turned everything into a weapon. Medical equipment became armor. Cooking utensils became communication devices. Entertainment systems became psychological warfare tools. In one conflict, human soldiers had convinced an enemy army to surrender by continuously broadcasting Earth music at them. The aliens had given up after 3 days of listening to something called death metal. In another battle, humans had ended a siege by programming their computers to display images that gave the attacking aliens severe headaches. The enemies had retreated rather than look at human art. Ambassador Quinn from the Trade Federation was reading about a conflict where humans had defeated an invasion by crashing the enemy's economy. They had somehow figured out the alien currency system, and then flooded the market with counterfeit money. The invading army had gone home because they couldn't afford to buy fuel for their ships. "They won a war with economics?" Quinn muttered. "That's brilliant. And terrifying." Elder Zephyrian closed her files and looked around the archive room. Every species was staring at their screens in shock. Some were making worried phone calls to their home worlds. Others were already booking transportation as far away from human space as possible. "Has anyone here ever seen humans lose a conflict?" she asked the room. The silence was complete. No one raised a hand or made a sound. "That's what I thought," Zephyrian said. "Computer, show me the file on human victory celebrations." A new warning appeared. "Extremely disturbing content. Psychological trauma likely. Emergency counseling available." The footage showed humans celebrating after their victories. They were laughing, singing, and sharing food with their former enemies. They were offering medical aid to the beings who had just tried to kill them. They were already making plans to rebuild the damage caused by the war. "This is the most terrifying part," Zephyrian explained to the shocked aliens around her. "They don't celebrate by showing off their strength. They celebrate by being kind to everyone, including their enemies. They win wars and then immediately try to make friends with the people who attack them. Why is that terrifying? Asked a young diplomat. Because, Zephyrian said slowly, it means they're not fighting because they hate their enemies. They're fighting because they think it's necessary. And when beings fight because they think they have to, instead of because they want to, they're willing to do absolutely anything to win. Across the archive room, beings were starting to place bets. But they weren't betting on whether the humans would win. They were betting on how long it would take, and whether the hegemony would survive long enough to surrender. The computers kept working through the night, pulling up more and more files. Each one told the same story. Humans were not like other species. When they fought, they didn't just use weapons. They used everything, and somehow, impossibly, they always found a way to win. The first attack came exactly when Kextar had promised. The Hegemony Coalition's massive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space. Thousands of warships surrounded the mining colony of New Perth. The humans living there had only basic defenses, a few patrol ships, and a small security force. Admiral Thorax of the Hegemony looked at his battle displays and smiled. His fleet had enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. The human colony had maybe 50 security guards and some civilian spacecraft. This would be over quickly. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Destroy their communication systems first. We don't want them calling for help. The attack started with antimatter missiles. Bright explosions lit up space as the weapons hit the colony's outer defenses. Gravity bombs followed, creating impossible twists in space that should have torn the human structures apart. Finally, dimensional rifts opened up, trying to slice the colony into pieces with holes in reality itself. For exactly 47 minutes, everything went according to plan. The human defenses were being destroyed. Their patrol ships were running away or exploding. The colony looked helpless. Then the humans started fighting back. The first sign that something was wrong came from the boarding team. Admiral Thorax had sent his best soldiers to capture the main colony ship. They were supposed to take control of the human command center and force a surrender. "Admiral," came a confused voice over the radio. "We've boarded the human ship, but something's wrong." "What do you mean something's wrong?" Thorax asked. "Sir, the corridors are full of traps, but they're not military traps. I don't know how to describe this. Someone has turned a coffee machine into an explosive device." "A what?" "A coffee machine, sir. It's a human beverage maker, except now it shoots boiling liquid and metal fragments. And sir, the artificial gravity in this section keeps changing direction. One moment we're walking on the floor, the next moment the wall becomes the floor." Admiral Thorax frowned. "Just push through the traps and take the command center." "We're trying, sir. But the humans are fighting in ways we've never seen. One of them is using a maintenance tool to. Sir, he somehow turned a toilet plunger into a weapon. That's impossible. He's using it to block our energy weapons, sir. The plunger is absorbing our laser blasts and redirecting them back at us. And sir, there's something else. The humans seem to be fighting in hard vacuum without spacesuits." "What?" Admiral Thorax checked his readings. Part of the human ship had been damaged and was open to space. No one could survive in that section without protection. "You must be mistaken." "No, sir, I'm watching them right now. They've somehow rigged their clothing to work as spacesuits. And they're using..." "Sir, one of them is using a fire extinguisher as a rocket pack. He's flying around in zero gravity fighting our soldiers with a wrench." The radio went quiet for a moment. "Then, sir, we need backup. The humans have captured 3 of our soldiers and they're already taking apart their equipment. They seem to be learning how our technology works." Admiral Thorax couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Fall back to the boarding craft. We'll use heavy weapons to destroy that section." "Sir, we can't find our boarding craft." "What do you mean you can't find it?" "The humans have somehow moved it, sir. I think they might have stolen it." Before Admiral Thorax could respond, alarms started going off all over his command ship. His tactical officer turned around with a shocked expression. "Admiral, we have a problem. 3 of our escort ships have gone dark." "Dark? Are they destroyed?" "No, sir, they're still there. But they're not responding to communications. And, sir, our sensors are picking up strange energy readings from those ships." On the main display screen, Admiral Thorax could see the 3 ships. They looked normal from the outside, but something was definitely wrong. As he watched, one of the ships turned and fired on the rest of the Hegemony fleet. "They're shooting at us," someone shouted. "How is that possible?" Admiral Thorax demanded. His science officer was frantically checking readings. Sir, it appears the humans have somehow taken control of those ships. But that's impossible. Our computer systems are completely different from human technology. They shouldn't be able to interface with our equipment at all. Unless, said another officer quietly, they figured out how to make their technology talk to ours. The captured Hegemony ships were now firing continuously at their former allies. But they weren't using normal weapons. The energy blasts coming from the ships were different colors and moved in strange patterns. What kind of weapons are those? Admiral Thorax asked. I don't think they are weapons, sir, his science officer replied. I think the humans have modified our mining equipment and turned it into ship cannons. Mining equipment can't be turned into weapons. Tell that to the humans, sir. The battle was getting worse by the minute. More Hegemony ships were being captured or destroyed. But the worst part was that the humans seemed to be having fun. Radio intercepts from the human colony were picking up laughter and what sounded like cheering. Admiral, came another voice from the boarding team. We found our missing boarding craft. Where is it? The humans have somehow attached it to their colony ship. They're using it as an extra engine. Sir, I think they're planning to ram us. Admiral Thorax looked at his display screen. The human colony ship was indeed moving toward his fleet, but it was moving much faster than any space station should be able to move. Somehow the humans had turned their entire colony into a spacecraft. Sir, his tactical officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the human colony. Put it on screen. A middle-aged human woman appeared on the display. She was wearing a maintenance uniform and had grease on her face. Behind her, other humans were running around doing things that made no sense to alien eyes. This is Engineer Sarah Martinez of New Perth Colony, the woman said. We've received your surrender demand. Admiral Thorax was confused. We never sent a surrender demand. We're attacking you. Oh, Sarah said, looking surprised. Well, that explains why you're shooting at us. We thought you were just really bad at saying hello. This is a military conquest, Admiral Thorax shouted. Surrender now or we'll destroy your colony. Sarah looked over her shoulder at something off-screen. Hey, Jim, they say they're trying to conquer us. A man's voice replied from somewhere behind her. Really? That's nice. Are they any good at it? Sarah turned back to the screen. Admiral, we appreciate the effort, but you're not very good at this conquest thing. You've been shooting at us for almost an hour and we're still here. Plus, we've captured some of your ships. Thanks for those, by the way. We're already figuring out how to improve them. Improve them? Oh, yes. Your weapons are very powerful, but they're not very creative. We've got some ideas. For example, did you know you can use a gravity bomb as a really good can opener? We've been making sandwiches with them. Admiral Thorax stared at the screen. You're using military weapons to make food? Well, we had to eat something. Fighting makes us hungry. Oh, and Admiral, you might want to check your ship's coffee machine. Our what? Coffee machine. We noticed you don't have any, so we installed one for you. It should be working right about now. Alarms started going off all over Admiral Thorax's ship. His engineering officer was shouting into his communicator. Sir, something's wrong with the ship's systems. All our computers are trying to make coffee. Even the weapon systems. Our main cannon just fired a stream of hot brown liquid at the enemy. Sarah smiled on the screen. We thought you might be thirsty. The coffee's pretty good, by the way. We use the energy from your antimatter reactor to brew it. Much better than our old machine. You hacked our systems to make coffee? Admiral Thorax asked weakly. Oh, that was just a test. We wanted to see if we could interface our technology with yours. Turns out we can. You really should update your computer security. It was easier to hack than a children's toy. The tactical officer turned to Admiral Thorax with a panicked expression. Sir, more ships are reporting system intrusions. The humans seem to be taking control of our entire fleet. How is that possible? I don't know, sir. But according to these readings, they've somehow convinced our computers that making coffee is more important than fighting a war. Sarah was still smiling on the screen. Admiral, we're going to give you one chance to leave peacefully. Take your ships and go home. Tell your leaders that humans don't like being attacked, but we're willing to forgive this mistake if you promise not to do it again. And if we refuse? Sarah's smile got bigger. Well, we haven't even started using the good stuff yet. What good stuff? Oh, you know. The really creative solutions. Right now we're just playing with your technology, but if you make us get serious, we'll have to start thinking outside the box. And Admiral, you really don't want to see what happens when humans start thinking outside the box. Admiral Thorax looked around his command center. Half his fleet was either captured or disabled. His own ship was brewing coffee instead of fighting. And the humans were talking like this was all just a fun game. "What are you?" he whispered. "We're humans," Sarah replied. "We're really good at solving problems. And right now, you're our problem." What the Hegemony had planned as a quick conquest turned into a nightmare that spread across 12 star systems. Every day brought new reports of impossible human victories and increasingly desperate Hegemony retreat orders. Admiral Thorax had escaped from New Perth colony with only half his fleet, but the horror stories followed him. His remaining ships were still brewing coffee randomly, and 3 of his officers had requested transfers to desk jobs after what they called the sandwich incident. The war room on the Hegemony homeworld was in chaos. Ambassador Kekstar stood in front of a massive display screen showing the current state of the conflict. Red icons marked Hegemony defeats. There were a lot of red icons. "Explain to me again how the humans turned our mining station into a weapon," demanded Supreme Leader Vexhar. The ruler of the Hegemony Coalition, Admiral Kreln, who had commanded the attack on the human farming world of Greenfield, stepped forward nervously. "Supreme Leader, they didn't just turn it into a weapon. They turned it into several weapons. Somehow they convinced our automated mining robots to start attacking our own ships. How?" "We're not entirely sure, sir. Our computer experts think the humans hacked into the mining station's central computer and reprogrammed it. But they didn't just change the code. They somehow taught the robots to be creative." Supreme Leader Vexhar's 3 eyes bulged with anger. "Robots can't be creative. They follow programming." "Yes, sir, that's what we thought too." But the human-modified robots started inventing new attack patterns. They began using mining equipment in ways that weren't in their original programming. One robot turned a ore crusher into a projectile launcher. Another used a drilling laser to write insults about our species on the side of our command ship. Insults? Very creative insults, sir. Our translation computers had to create new words to express what the robot was calling us. From across the room, General Thekmore added his own report. "Supreme Leader, the situation on Epsilon Forge is even worse. The humans have somehow convinced an entire asteroid belt to change its orbit. That's impossible." "We thought so too, sir. But according to our gravitational sensors, 3 billion tons of rock are now moving in formation toward our supply depot. The asteroids seem to be following precise flight paths that our computers say violate several laws of physics." "How can asteroids violate physics?" "The humans attached rocket engines to them, sir. But not normal rocket engines. They're using something they call creative propulsion systems. Our scientists can't figure out how they work." Admiral Kreln pulled up another report on his data pad. "Sir, there's more. The humans on the agricultural world of Harvest Moon have weaponized their farming equipment. They're using crop irrigation systems to shoot streams of fertilizer at our ships. When the fertilizer hits our hull armor, it somehow makes the metal grow plants." "Our ships are growing plants?" "Yes, sir. The USS Devastator is currently covered in corn stalks. The crew can't see out of the windows." Supreme Leader Vexahar sat down heavily in his command chair. "What about the attack on their industrial world? Surely our superior technology can defeat human factories." Admiral Thorax stepped forward, still looking traumatized from his experience at New Perth. "Sir, the humans have turned their entire manufacturing sector into a war machine, but not in the way we expected." "Explain." "They're not building weapons, sir. They're building modifications for our weapons. Somehow they've been capturing our equipment and improving it. Then they send it back to us with notes." "Notes? Helpful suggestions, sir. For example, after they captured one of our plasma cannons, they sent it back with a new targeting system and a note that said, 'Thank you for the donation. We fixed the accuracy problem and added a cup holder. Please enjoy responsibly.'" The Supreme Leader's mandibles clicked with frustration. Did they at least make the weapon worse? "No, sir, they made it significantly better. It's now the most accurate plasma cannon in our fleet. And the cup holder is very convenient." General Thekmore consulted his own reports. "Sir, we're also receiving intelligence about human counterattacks. They're not just defending anymore. They're launching offensive operations, finally. Something normal." "What kind of attacks?" "Well, sir, they sent a diplomatic mission to our allies in the Razorclaw Empire." "Diplomats? During a war?" "Yes, sir. The humans sent a team of negotiators who offered to teach the Razorclaws how to make better coffee. Within 6 hours, the Razorclaw Empire had switched sides and was offering to help the humans. They conquered an empire with coffee? It was apparently very good coffee, sir. The Razor Claw Emperor said it was the best beverage he'd ever tasted. He offered to trade 3-star systems for the recipe. Admiral Krelln added another report. Sir, the humans have also begun broadcasting to our other allies. Military propaganda? No, sir. Entertainment. They're showing our allies something called Earth movies and music videos. Several of our coalition partners have requested ceasefires so they can continue watching. They're defeating our allies with entertainment? The Iron Fang Confederation surrendered after watching something called a romantic comedy. Their leaders said they had never seen anything so emotionally satisfying and wanted to learn more about human culture. Supreme Leader Vexhar was starting to develop a headache. What about the Venom Lords? They hate all other species. Surely they won't be swayed by human tricks. Admiral Thorax looked uncomfortable. Sir, the Venom Lords received a gift from the humans yesterday. What kind of gift? Medical supplies. Specifically antidotes for all of their biological weapons. The humans included a note saying they were concerned about accidental poisonings and wanted to help keep everyone safe. The Venom Lords accepted medical aid from an enemy. Sir, the Venom Lords were so impressed by human generosity that they've declared the humans to be honorary poison brothers and have offered to share their most secret toxin recipes. The Supreme Leader stood up and began pacing around the room. Let me understand this correctly. The humans are winning a war by being helpful? Yes, sir, all the officers replied together. They're defeating our technology by improving it? Yes, sir. They're converting our allies by entertaining them? Yes, sir. And they're making friends with species that hate everyone? Yes, sir. Supreme Leader Vexhar stopped pacing and stared at the tactical display. What's the current status of our fleet? Admiral Thorax consulted his data pad. Sir, we started with 8,000 ships. We currently have operational control of approximately 2,000 ships. Where are the other 6,000? Well, sir, 1,000 were captured by the humans. 2,000 have been converted to coffee shops by human computer viruses. 1,000 are covered in plants and can't move. And 2,000 have been redecorated. Redecorated? The humans have been painting murals on our ships, sir. Beautiful artwork depicting scenes of peace and friendship between species. The crews refuse to paint over them because they say the art is too pretty to destroy. Our soldiers are being defeated by pretty pictures? Yes, sir. Morale has dropped significantly. Many of our warriors are requesting transfers to non-combat positions so they can learn human art techniques. General Thecamore stepped forward with another report. Sir, there's something else. Our intelligence division has intercepted human communications about their next phase of operations. Finally. What are they planning? They're organizing something they call Operation Friendship, sir. According to the communications, they're planning to send care packages to all Hegemony worlds. Care packages? Yes, sir. Food, entertainment, medical supplies, and educational materials. They want to show our people what human culture is really like. Supreme Leader Vexhar sat down again, looking defeated. So the humans are planning to attack us with kindness? It appears so, sir. And this might actually work? Admiral Thorax nodded sadly. Sir, we've analyzed human tactics throughout this conflict. They seem to have an unlimited ability to turn any situation into an opportunity to make friends. Even when we attack them, they respond by trying to help us. That's the most terrifying military strategy I've ever heard of, the Supreme Leader whispered. Yes, sir, agreed all the officers. What do we do now? The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Krelln spoke up quietly. Sir, I hate to say this, but I think we should consider surrendering. Surrender? To beings who attack us with friendship and defeat us with helpfulness? Sir, at this rate, they're going to make us like them. And if we start liking humans, we won't want to fight them anymore. Supreme Leader Vexhar looked around the room at his defeated officers. Send a message to all our remaining ships, he said finally. Tell them to stop attacking human targets immediately. Yes, sir. Should we begin retreat maneuvers? No, the Supreme Leader said quietly. Send a message to the humans. Tell them we want to discuss terms. Surrender terms, sir? No, Vexhar replied, looking embarrassed. Ask them if they'd be willing to teach us how to make that coffee. The war ended not with explosions or dramatic space battles, but with the most unexpected sound in galactic history, Hegemony soldiers laughing at human jokes. The formal surrender ceremony took place in the same Galactic Council chambers where Ambassador Kextar had announced his invasion plans 3 months earlier. But the alien who stood before the council now was not the same confident warrior who had dismissed human threats. Kextar looked tired, confused, and strangely happy. "Honorable council members," Kextar began, his voice much quieter than before. "The Hegemony Coalition formally surrenders to the human forces. We admit complete defeat and throw ourselves on their mercy." Elder Zephyrian leaned forward in her seat. "Ambassador Kextar, what exactly happened out there?" Kextar looked around the chamber, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. "They broke us," he said simply, "but not in any way we could have imagined." "Explain," demanded Representative Quill of the Warhawk Alliance. "They didn't just defeat our military," Kextar continued. They made us question everything we thought we knew about war, about strength, about what it means to be powerful." He activated a holographic display that showed the final battle of the conflict, but instead of showing destruction, the images showed something impossible: Hegemony and human soldiers working together to repair damaged ships. "This was taken 3 days ago," Kextar explained. "Our final stronghold at Sigma Base. We were preparing for a last desperate battle when the humans arrived. We expected them to destroy us completely. The hologram showed human ships approaching the Hegemony base, but instead of attacking, they had sent a message. They asked if we needed any help," Kextar said, his voice filled with bewilderment. "They said our base looked damaged and offered to send repair teams." Ambassador Thrix's crystal body flashed confused colors. "They offered to help their enemies?" "That's what we thought too. We assumed it was a trick. So we refused and prepared to fight to the death. But then..." Kextar paused, looking embarrassed. "Then they sent us sandwiches." "Sandwiches?" Several council members asked at once. "Food packages," Kextar clarified. "They said they noticed we'd been under siege for weeks and thought we might be hungry." The packages included notes explaining that the food was safe and that they had made extra because fighting makes everyone hungry. The hologram showed Hegemony soldiers cautiously accepting food packages from human delivery drones. The aliens were clearly suspicious, but they were also clearly starving. "The food was incredible," Kextar admitted. "Better than anything our military cooks had ever made. And it came with instructions on how to prepare similar meals using ingredients we could find on our own worlds." Elder Zephyrian was staring at the display in amazement. "They were teaching you to cook?" "They said that good food was important for morale and that no one should have to eat military rations if they didn't have to," Kextar replied. "Then they sent more packages. Medical supplies for our wounded, entertainment programs for our off-duty soldiers, educational materials about human culture. And you accepted all of this?" "We tried not to," Kextar said defensively. "But every time we refused, they would ask if we were sure, and then offer something else. When we said we didn't want medical supplies, they asked if we needed help repairing our equipment instead. When we refused entertainment, they offered to teach us human games." The hologram showed the progression of the siege. Day by day, more Hegemony soldiers were interacting with humans. They were sharing meals, learning games, and even working together on repair projects. "How did this lead to your surrender?" asked General Vorthak. "They never asked us to surrender," Kextar replied. "In fact, they kept insisting that we could continue fighting if we really wanted to. They said they respected our right to make our own choices and would support whatever decision we made." That's psychological warfare," whispered Dr. Zalana. "It was the most effective military tactic we had ever encountered." Kextar agreed. "After 2 weeks of being treated with kindness and respect by our enemies, our soldiers started asking questions. They wanted to know why we were fighting beings who were so obviously good people." The final image in the hologram showed Supreme Leader Vexhar himself sitting in a human cafeteria, learning to use chopsticks while a human child taught him to fold paper flowers. "My Supreme Leader spent 6 hours yesterday learning human origami from a 7-year-old girl," Kextar said. When I asked him why, he said it was the most peaceful he had felt in decades. Representative Quill stood up angrily. "This is madness. The humans have obviously brainwashed your entire civilization." "That's what we thought too," Kextar replied. "So we ran medical scans on all our personnel. No brainwashing, no mind control, no drugs or technology affecting our behavior. The humans were simply being genuinely kind to us, and we had no defense against it." "But surely your military training, your warrior culture," Quill protested. "That's the problem," Kextar said sadly. "Our culture teaches us to be strong to conquer, to take what we want by force. But the humans showed us a different kind of strength. They were strong enough to be kind to people who were trying to kill them. They were powerful enough to help their enemies instead of destroying them. Elder Zephyrian was nodding slowly. And your soldiers wanted to learn this new kind of strength. They did. We tried to maintain discipline. But when your enemies are teaching your children how to make art and your wounded soldiers are laughing at human comedy shows, it becomes very difficult to maintain a fighting spirit. Ambassador Quinn from the Trade Federation raised a tentacle. What are the terms of this surrender? Kextar looked even more embarrassed. That's the most humiliating part. The humans refuse to accept our surrender. What? Half the council shouted at once. They say that surrender implies we did something wrong and they don't think we did anything wrong. They said we were just confused about what we really wanted. They've offered to help us figure out what would make us truly happy instead of just temporarily powerful. So what happens now? Asked Elder Zephyrian. The humans have proposed something they called the Friendship Accords, Kextar explained. Instead of conquest or surrender, they want to establish cultural and economic partnerships with all hegemony worlds. They've offered to share their technology, their art, their food, and their knowledge in exchange for the chance to learn about our cultures. And your people agreed to this? Enthusiastically, Kextar admitted. Our military commanders are already signing up for human engineering courses. Our politicians want to learn about human democracy. Our artists are begging for lessons in human music and literature. Representative Quill sat down heavily. So the humans have conquered the hegemony by making them want to be conquered. No, Kextar corrected. They've liberated us from our own need to conquer others. For the first time in our history, we're thinking about what we can create instead of what we can destroy. Elder Zephyrian stood up slowly. Council members, I believe we need to discuss some changes to our governmental structure. What kind of changes? Asked several representatives. We need a new position, she explained. Someone whose job is to make sure no one ever makes the mistake of attacking humanity again. What would you call this position? Asked Ambassador Thrix. The human liaison and early warning specialist, Zephyrian replied. The job would come with hazard pay and mandatory psychological counseling. Why psychological counseling? Asked Dr. Zalana. Because Elder Zephyrian explained, dealing with humans on a regular basis tends to change the way you think about everything. And that can be very disturbing for beings who are used to thinking that the universe makes sense. From the back of the chamber, a new voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Kextar's assistant, who had been taking notes throughout the meeting. Excuse me, the young alien said. I have a message from the humans. What do they want? Elder Zephyrian asked. They're inviting the entire Galactic Council to something called a potluck dinner, the assistant replied. They said they want to share food from all our different cultures and maybe play some games afterward. The chamber went silent. Every being was staring at the assistant. They want to have a party? Representative Quill asked weakly. They said it would be fun, the assistant continued, and they promised to teach anyone who's interested how to make that coffee everyone's been talking about. Elder Zephyrian looked around the chamber at the faces of hundreds of different species. All of them looked curious, nervous, and strangely hopeful. Council members, she said finally, I think we're about to learn what it really means to live in a galaxy with humans. Across the chamber, beings were already pulling out their communication devices to contact their homeworlds. Some were asking for permission to attend the human party. Others were requesting emergency diplomatic protocols for dealing with aggressive friendliness. But in the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, automated systems were updating the files on human conflicts. The new entry was simple. Humans have developed the ultimate weapon. It's called kindness, and there is no known defense against it. Ambassador Kextar was the last to leave the chamber. As he walked toward the exit, he paused and looked back at the empty seats. They turned a sandwich into a weapon, he muttered to himself.